Joshua chapter 3, verse 2 says, "At the end of 3 days, the officers went through the camp." Now, this is a very short verse, but I want you to notice a couple things. The first thing is at the end of 3 days. We saw in chapter 3, verse 1, that the people of Israel, they left Shittim, and they came to the Jordan River, and they lodged there. And now we see how long they lodged there. They lodged there 3 days. Now, if you go back to Joshua chapter 1, verses 10 through 11, you'll actually see that Joshua at first in this passage had commanded the officers, these same men, to go through the camp and tell everybody to get ready, prepare your provisions, because within 3 days we're going to cross the river. Well, that was now 6 days, at least, maybe 7, before the end of these 3 days. And so what happened? Well, one of the things that happened was Joshua had sent out the spies, and then they got caught, really. Rahab had to save them, to hide them, and then they had to go up into the hills and hide from the pursuers that were after them. And then they had to come back down to Joshua, report everything. And then the next morning, they ended up heading out over to the Jordan River. And so in Joshua chapter 3, verse 2, it kind of clarifies exactly what happened. It shows us that leaders, God's people, need to have a plan in place, but they also need to be flexible for unforeseen circumstances like this. And so in Joshua 3:2, it says, at the end of 3 days, now this is 3 days of lodging at the Jordan River, staying at the Jordan River, at the end of 3 days, the officers, they went through the camp. And we're going to see exactly what they did and what they said. But keynote here is the officers. It's not Joshua trying to take on all of the responsibilities. He's not trying to micromanage. He's not trying to basically put everything on himself. But Joshua is working with a whole bunch of very godly men, very devoted men who are in places of leadership and authority within the congregation. Joshua is working with them, serving with them, loving these men. And so this is what's going on here. Not all of the work, not all the responsibilities on Joshua, but it is a shared burden that he has to serve with these faithful men, these officers right here that are going through the camp, charging the people to be faithful in their walk with the Lord, telling the people, communicating with them exactly what's going to happen. But Joshua is delegating responsibilities. He's the leader that God has called him to be, and he is serving with other leaders. And so this is Joshua chapter 3, verse 2. At the end of 3 days, the officers went through the camp.